When I finished my military service, I couldn't find a job to support my family, so I started a mercenary group with a couple of my friends. They were ex-military just like me. Our first jobs were not hard. We would work for some people who needed protection. It was easy money for us. After a couple of jobs like that, we started going to warring countries where we would fight on the side that paid more. After a couple of jobs, we lost some good men, our friends and our brothers. After we lost 10 guys in one fight, our group disbanded because losing friends for money wasn't worth it anymore. After we disbanded, all of us tried to get a normal job, but it was hard to find a job for all of us, because the only thing we really knew was violence. On that day, I got an email offering us a good sum of the money for what I believed was an easy job for the money that they were offering. Our job was to guard some scientists so that he could safely explore an abandoned World War II bunker. I was seriously thinking that we could do this job, get the money, and not have to work ever again. I called my buddies from my former group. There were only 6 of us left. I proposed to them the offer that I got, and they all agreed that we should do this job because it seemed easy enough. So, about my group, or what's left of it, there is Tom, Vlad, Bob, Jacob, Sam, and me, Martin. Vlad was my second in command because he was the most experienced after me. He was more skeptical about this job because it seemed too good to be true. So much money for what seemed to be an easy job. After we all agreed to do the job though, I contacted the people who sent me the email telling me that we accepted. They told us to come to a city in Poland called Redacted. After we get there, we will meet the scientist and go with him to the bunker that they told us that we will get reinforcements after a few hours as well. The last part got me thinking that the bunker exploring won't be that safe. I asked them why we would need reinforcements. They just told me that it was for security measures. In the morning, we boarded the plane and soon after landed in Redacted, Poland. We met the scientist and his name was Antony. After meeting him, we were picked up by a truck to the destination of the bunker, which was located deep in the woods. When we got to the woods, we traveled a couple of hours to a clearing in the middle of the forest. In the middle of the clearing, there were some sandbags around, which seemed to be the entrance to the bunker. The door to the bunker was sealed shut. We couldn't open the door, so we used some explosives to detonate it. After opening it up, Bob, Jacob, and Sam were staying on the surface to guard the place while Tom, Vlad, Antony, and I entered the building. When we went down the stairs of the bunker, we entered a small hallway that was full of dust. When we entered a door that was at the end of the hallway, after passing through the door, we found a set of rooms. The first room that we entered was a barracks of some sort. It had bunk beds, a footlocker, and a German World War II flag nailed to the wall. In the next room we entered, we found a radio station which surprisingly was still working, even though the only thing that we could hear was static. In the room after that, we found what seemed to be an officer's room. It had a nice bed, a chair, and a table with a lamp in it. On top of the table were some documents that were written in German. We collected them to be read later. After we entered another barracks, we found a cross that was tied to a lamp in the room, and it was spinning as somebody had just spun it. We were wondering how it could be spinning, but our thoughts were interrupted by these screams from Antony. We rushed to him and found him in a room pointing at the corner of the room. We looked at the corner and it was full of bodies. We tried to calm him down, and we got closer to the bodies so we could check them out. I almost screamed when a hand rose from the pile of them. We got the person out of the pile. His skin was white as a ghost and his face was expressionless. We tried to get him to talk to us, but he stayed silent. We didn't know how he had managed to get inside of the bunker when it was sealed shut. After another failed attempt to get him to speak to us, we decided to lock him in one of the barracks. I went to check the guy still up on the surface. When I got out of the bunker, Bob pulled me to the ground and pointed to the forest. There in the forest, a light shone. Bob said that the light might be from a sniper rifle, so we decided to open fire on the location. After a couple of minutes of firing, we sent Sam to check the position for a body. He went to check the position, and after he returned, he said that there was nobody there, and no blood to indicate that someone was there. Even though we didn't find anyone or what had made the light, we were still on high alert. We decide that we will have someone on guard duty for the night. Jacob and Tom volunteered to be the first on duty, while the rest of us were going to go sleep in the bunker. After we settled in the barracks, we all dozed off to sleep. We were woken up in the middle of the night by some old German music playing on the radio station. We tried to turn the radio off, but it wouldn't stop playing the music. So Vlad was irritated and destroyed the radio station, and finally the music cut off. We tried to figure out where it had come from, but everybody in our group said that it wasn't them. And then I remembered the man that we had found in the bunker. Maybe it was him that had played the music. We went to the room that we had locked him in, and he was still there, just staring at the wall. We decided to leave him be, and since we were all woken up, we went to go check on Jacob and Tom. And when we made it to the surface, the two of them were sitting there smoking cigarettes. We stayed to talk to them while Anthony had decided to go back down to the bunker and to sleep. Outside, there was a fog around the forest like it was covering it. It was peaceful outside, until I saw what looked like some people standing in the forest. They weren't trying to hide. They were just standing there watching us. All of us got in cover. We thought they were going to attack us, so we decided to open fire again. We fired at them, but they just stood there like unmoving statues, while bullets ripped through their body. And after a while, they vanished into the fog the same way they had appeared. We were now sure that there were people around the bunker, so I ordered everyone to be on guard duty while I went to check on Anthony. When I went down, I found him in the hallway looking at something. When I got closer, I saw that something was a map of the bunker. I asked him why he was looking at the map, and he mumbled that there was something wrong with it because the map says that there's another room in the bunker, but it was a bigger room, bigger than all of the other ones. When I took a look at the map, it indeed showed that there was supposed to be a big room in the bunker, but we somehow had missed it. When I took a better look at it, the room was connected to the officer's room. Both of us made our way to the room and started looking for the entrance to the hidden one. We looked for a long time, until I accidentally had pushed the bed, and underneath it I found a hatch. I opened the hatch and found a set of stairs leading down. Anthony and I went down the stairs and entered the big room. In the room there was a camera and what looked like a machine. I had never seen a machine like that before, while Anthony looked excited like a kid. He took pictures of the machine and wrote something in his book. I asked him what the machine was, but he said that he didn't know. I left him alone in the room and went to the guys. Some of the guys returned to the barracks to sleep while Tom and Jacob stayed on guard duty. I sent a message to our employers to tell them that we had managed to enter the bunker, but I got no reply from them. I was tired and I went to sleep. In the morning, I was the first to wake up and I went to check on Tom and Jacob. When I made my way out of the bunker, I found them both, their hands tied together with their necks slashed, and a bullet casing lodged into Tom's eye. They had been gone for a few hours. I pulled the bullet casing out and it was a 7.92 57 Mauser. This bullet was used by the Germans of World War II. After I alerted everyone of what happened, we buried our friends. Vlad was most hurt by the death of our friends, and he punched me and told me that I was to blame for our friend's death. I was hurt by this because I would have never accepted this job if I would have known it was this dangerous. We saw the people again in the forest like last time. We fired at them again, but they disappeared much like before. I sent an email to our employers that we had suffered casualties. I got a reply this time. They told me that we would be getting reinforcements after 72 hours. I went to Anthony because I had a suspicion that he knew more than he had told us when we had first met him. I looked for him in the bunker and found him in the big room with the machine. He was fixing the camera and trying to play some tape that he had found. I asked him to tell me everything that he knew about this job. He was hesitant at first, but he finally told me that he had known that this job was dangerous and that we were not the first to try this job, and that all that had tried this job before had died. He said that his job was to find this machine and find out what its purpose was. And he said that he may have figured it out, but he just needed to fix the camera. After he had fixed the camera, he put the tape inside and activated the camera. In the video, we saw what looked like the Germans doing some odd experiments. They put a soldier in the machine, and after he got out, they would dispose of him. But after a couple of seconds, he got up again as if nothing had happened. And the way that he acted was almost robot-like. He didn't show any emotion. He just stood there and listened to the orders that he was given. Anthony then told me that in the documents he read, that the Germans were doing experiments to find a way to create super soldiers. But they had stopped in 1943 because of a lack of funding. As the video continued, we saw a familiar figure, and it was the man that we found in the video. He was the officer in command of the experiments. I went to see the man, but I found his room empty, and Sam, who was supposed to be guarding him, was missing. I asked Vlad if he had seen the two of them leave the bunker, but he said that he was on guard duty and no one had left the bunker. We looked around the bunker, but we only found the man in the officer's room, and he was just sitting there smiling at us. On the table was Sam's head. I was so angry that I pulled out my pistol and I shot him. He dropped to the ground. I looked at him as he was laying on the ground. And then suddenly the lights went out, but it was just for a second. But the body of the man had disappeared. We went back to the surface to find Vlad and Bob. They were looking at the forest and once more saw the people out there, only this time they were slowly inching towards us. We opened fire for a third time on them and even threw grenades at them, but it didn't stop their advancement. As they got closer, we were forced to retreat to the bunker. But as we were retreating, Bob was too slow and they caught him. We heard his screams, but we had to continue to retreat. We had barricaded the door to the hallway, but it wasn't going to stop them for long. We were trapped. We went inside the big room. Vlad was beyond mad that he said it was all my fault, that I was the one that proposed the job and I'm responsible for all the deaths of our friends. I had had enough of him yelling at me and said that he was to blame too because he also agreed that we should do the job. Anthony told us to stop fighting and to find a way out of this bunker. We agreed and set aside our differences so we could try to find a way out and survive. I looked at the map of the bunker and saw no secret exit, but I did find that the vents would lead to the outside. I saw the vents in the corner, but the only problem was that they were too high to access. So I climbed on Vlad's shoulders and managed to squeeze inside of one. We heard the door being destroyed, so we knew that they had entered. We didn't have much time to waste. I got Anthony up and tried to raise Vlad, but he was too heavy. I saw that the things had started entering the room, and I saw them clearly for the first time. They were German soldiers. When I failed to raise Vlad for the 10th time, he decided to hold them back while we could escape. He started shooting at them with his machine gun, but it only slowed them down a little. After a few minutes, I could hear the firing had stopped and I assumed that he was a goner. We started making our way through the vent. It was dark inside, but I could see a light at the end of the vent. I heard Anthony scream that something had caught his leg and it was pulling him back. I tried to help him and grab a hold of him, but the thing pulling him was stronger and it dragged him away into the dark. I continued going on, not sure what to do, and eventually I got out of the vent. The moment that I made it out, I was surrounded by the soldiers, and I thought that this was how I was going to die. But then the officer stood in front of me, and he said that he could always use more soldiers. After he said that, I was knocked unconscious. After hours, it seemed, I woke up and I was standing still and I couldn't move my body. I was standing in the forest with the other soldiers. I looked to my right and I saw Vlad, also dressed in uniform. The officer congratulated me on joining them and said that I was going to be a good soldier. I couldn't say anything, just watch on in horror. After exactly 72 hours, I saw a group of soldiers followed by a female scientist entering the bunker. The officer started to smile.